Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brown Bag Lunch with me, Laura Collins, the athlete psychotherapist. If you're watching live, if you are watching the recording after, thank you so much for taking the time to have lunch with us today. In the kitchen, I have my wonderful, wonderful colleague, Shelby Remillard, LMHC, former swimmer, grief specialist, and I'm so honored for you to be here today, Shelby. Thank you for taking this time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Mhm. Today, everybody, we're going to be talking about grief, identity, and high performance in general. Um, and this is coming up at a good time actually, as Father's Day is just around the corner. I'm thinking about my own dad who passed away. Gosh, it's already been like 9 years. I can't believe it. But
Mm,
it's wild because the moment I think of him, it's like time travel, and it feels
yeah.
like yesterday. So, um, grief in all the different forms is what we're going to be talking about today.
Mhm.
But before we get there, Shelby, what's for lunch?
Oh, I actually didn't even bring anything for lunch now, but I had avocado toast with a fried egg before we hopped on. My
Okay.
go-to, honestly. I have it every day if I
So
can.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am technically allergic to avocados, but I still eat them because I
Oh,
cannot help myself. So
they're the
it is what
best.
it is. You just work through it. Yeah. Today, what did I eat? I have been unnaturally snacking, so I don't know what that's about, but I do have a salad and a sandwich ready to go after this. Good. Everybody, don't be shy to put in whatever you're eating for lunch. We want to make sure we are eating and hydrating. Don't forget to nourish yourself throughout the day. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. So, Shelby, let's get down to it because 20 minutes just goes by super, super fast, most of all.
Yeah.
But grief work, it's not for everybody. It's
Mhm.
intensive. Tell us your story. Tell us what you're comfortable with too. What brought you to grief work?
Yeah. So, I knew I wanted to be, in psychology or doing something like that ever since my senior year of high school. So I had already decided to declare that when I went to college. And then my dad died in 2009, my freshman year of college, and um, I then was like, not doing grief. I remember saying that like my sophomore year, I was like, well, I could do anything I want with therapy. I thought I was going to work more in addiction studies. But I was like, there's no way I'm doing grief. It's too hard. I think that really changed for me maybe about like 8 or so years later when I was in grad school, moved to New York City. I started getting involved with a organization called Experience Camps, which is a free camp for kids who are grieving a parent, caregiver, or sibling. And finding my own grief community honestly like shaped and changed just how I was processing my own grief. Seeing kids who are in their teens like sit in circle and share their story and really inspired me to like just keep doing that. So I worked with experience camps for 7 summers. Since then they branched off and do an adult grief retreat, which I've done before for like 3 years. And ever since then, I really leaned hard into my like grief therapist identity. I think I found it gives me as much back as I hope to give in my ongoing grief groups and individual support now. So,
Mm. Well, it's been a journey. Thank you for sharing.
mhm.
For those who are listening and they're like, grief group, God, why do you want to think like that?
Mhm.
Can you share what that's like? So just give an idea for what does grief group even mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. A grief group is, um, I like to say it's like a gathering and a community to like hold space for your grief for an hour a week. A lot of people who are coming into my grief groups often say like they're probably in individual therapy, but they often say like even in individual therapy, I have so many other things I want to focus on that grief doesn't really get its space, or I haven't touched my grief in years, but a life change just happened and I'm really missing my parent now. I think it's a really important space to have to witness someone else's mourning process and like have yours be witnessed as well. Um, to learn from each other about what works, to ask questions of each other. In my grief groups, there is like a range of like when the time of loss happens. So you can be in your under your first year in the same group as someone who's navigating it 5, 6 years down the road. And I just love kind of like that communal learning and that communal witnessing. This week's kind of therapy theme was a lot about mirroring and companioning. And so, like, people are like, a lot of our people outside of grief group don't know what to say, don't want to say the wrong thing, don't want to make me sad. But it's like grief group is my way to be able to just come as I am and be sad or have a question be asked or ask a question of my own and just really be in companionship with my grief. So,
Mm, it sounds really powerful and very, very loving. What a loving
yeah.
space. What a
Hmm.
really, really loving space. Now, taking from the loss of a human being, a
Hmm.
cared for human being in our lives, but there's also various kinds of grief in general, different kinds of losses. What other losses are coming up for you in these grief spaces that you notice?
Yeah, yeah. So we talk about the primary loss being like the death of a person, or I run pet loss groups, so death of a pet. But we also talk about secondary losses, which are loss of safety in the world, like loss
Mm,
of spirituality or a belief system. I once thought that, the world was a safe place. Now it's unpredictable. Now I don't know. We've talked a lot about like a loss of identity, especially my BIPOC adult grief group, where maybe one parent really held strong cultural ties to their cultural identity, and now that parent is gone. Part of our culture might die with them. So there's a lot of different secondary losses that come with grief that we also are making space for. I run a I'm getting married and grieving group as well, and in that space, it's all about mostly secondary losses of like I lost my dream wedding that I had in my mind. I We talk a lot about like also losing maybe the purity. We get a lot of thoughts about your wedding's supposed to be the best day of your life, and a lot of people in my group are like, it's not going to be because dad or mom is not there.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, losing a purity of a experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, so much. That's like so heartfelt. You can see how much it
Mhm.
impacts you too, how much
Mhm.
you're holding for these wonderful people who are sharing their heart and their experiences in this space. Um, one more question. I hope it's okay because it can feel heavy, I know. But you spoke about the identity loss, possibly cultural loss. There's so much of that, as well. And I'm just thinking about you and I, as we met. Shelby's one of the founding members of the Athlete Community Clinicians. And when we met and shared that we both have lost our sport due to injury, that's another kind of grief.
Mhm.
Shelby, feel free to share what you're comfortable with for sure.
Yeah.
But like, how does that come up? What is that like for you as you hold these spaces and you are, also carrying your own identity and that has incorporated grief as well?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so interesting now for me to, like, look back at that time. I was a swimmer for my entire life. Felt like 9 years old to, I had to retire when I was a sophomore in college. Um, but to think about that, I was also a grieving athlete, so, like, my dad had died, and I was trying to figure out life and swimming, truly, without him cheering me on, no longer being at meets and things like that. But I had dislocated my shoulder going into sophomore year, and, I just remember feeling like my whole life was changing in that moment, and I felt so, like, mad at myself and, like, mad at, like, "Oh, why did I, like, sleep in this position, and why is my shoulder this way?" And I was a butterflyer, so, like, heavy
Oh,
shoulder work,
wow.
I need those
Yeah.
things to work, and so,
Mhm.
I rehabbed it through that year, but I think in reflecting in that year, I was also grieving, why I kinda like this, like, thought of, like, grieving greatness is, like, I wasn't as strong as I, used to be. My times weren't as fast. I was coming off also a stellar freshman year, the best year I ever swam, and I was, like, reckoning with a lot of disappointment and heartache that, like, um, my body's just not working in the same way that I was so used to it working. And I think also in grief with our bodies, especially as athletes, we have to learn how to trust them again. And like even building trust with my shoulder and my body, like extended way beyond after I decided to stop swimming. It's only even till like now where I feel like I'm in a better space with her and like can trust her and like feel her strength in a different way. Um,
Mm,
so yeah, we lose a lot by
mhm.
thinking about that. I don't know if you watched the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, but I just binged that show. And so, uh, one of the cheerleaders who's actually super well known, Reese, she um, had just a mishap and she twisted her ankle and
Oh
she
gosh.
ended up not finishing the season as well as she wanted to or being involved in the dances. And spoilers for anyone who's watched, she ended up not continuing. And I just watched
Mm,
her story with so much compassion because of that difficulty in that decision and that grief that she was feeling. They literally hang up their uniform. And I'm like, oh my God, that's
wow.
such a passing of that identity torch.
Yeah, right, right. Oh my gosh, just even the saying, just even you saying that, that sent chills down my spine right now. Oh my God, hanging
Mhm,
up the jersey, hanging up the uniform. Ooh,
mhm,
thank you so much for sharing that. That identity foreclosure, that is part of the
mhm.
grief process. That we definitely didn't have guidance for that. These are, I feel like these
Yeah,
are new conversations in
yeah.
high performance athletic spaces, which I'm so glad. And also being very aware that the people who are talking about it are often like you and me who have gone through
Mhm.
that without support. And just being mindful that when we're talking about it, it can bring up a lot of stuff. So, to that point, you're talking about the importance of community in grieving.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's listening right now, who, because this happens a lot in spaces, how long should I be grieving? People say I should be
Mhm,
over it. But yet we're talking about maybe a year, 5 years, 10 years, it's been 9 years, and I still
mhm.
feel like to an extent I can celebrate. And also, I still grieve my dad not being around.
Totally.
But for someone who's kind of new at this or thinking about their own grief and their process of grief, and maybe especially as high performers, we can tend to minimize our
Mm,
emotions in all of this. What can you say? Like, what's a good start? Where can they go? What are some maybe initial steps into the process of working through one's grief?
yeah, yeah, great question. One of the things I teach in my grief groups, all of them, is the fact that we, like you're naming, ingest a lot of grief stigmas. Those stigmas of like, there's a timeline, you can't mourn or talk about this person or pet anymore. And I think a lot of people are coming from spaces and people that are in their lives telling them these things. Um, and so I think that's first of all giving yourself like some self-compassion and like kind of the unlearning of that. Like I am allowed to take as much time as I need to. Because I think that when folks can do that and then maybe come to a grief group or start therapy or find their own kind of their like grief community, they can then really let people in. They can really give themselves like all of that grace and then they can companion their grief. It's like once
Mhm.
they stop judging their grief and like their process, you're actually now allowing it to like to befriend it. I always talk about like building a relationship with your grief in a way that
Oh, I
helps.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, in a way that helps, like, integrate it, so then it's like it's not something I push in the closet and never look at, but it's something that I know is gonna pop up, like, alright, when every time I'm in the water of any kind, I feel a little like, "Oh, remember that time when I was
Mm.
swimming and doing 200 butterflies? Oh my god." Like, but in such a way that's like, "Wow, I really loved and missed that." And sad that that's not where I am right now, and that's okay. You know, you can then, like, get a different, more, um, fuller experience of your grief and,
Mhm.
like, of yourself, I think.
Yeah. you know what I also love about that is that you got a moment to touch base with your younger self in that moment, a
Mhm.
time that is really important, that she's in there and
Mhm.
she's like she's alive and well in there, and that's also a part of you too. For me, I think of my dad in particular. He's also a basketball player, and my younger son plays a lot like him. Corner shot, a little
Oh.
cute little. I mean, I know everybody has their knee going up on a layup, but just the way he looks, the way he plays, the way he moves reminds me so much of my dad. And I just think like, oh my God, I get a chance to think of him right now and
Mm.
feel that presence in, doesn't matter if it's in my mind, it belongs to me. And so I love that befriending idea and nature. Hmm.
Yeah, it allows us to grow like a what they call a continuing bond. So when you're
Hmm.
talking about your dad, it made me think about how in our groups and even with individuals, I'll um, start to ask or build like, what's something that dad always did that you really feel connected, or is there a song, a movie, anything that helps you feel super connected to him? Because then that's a way in, that's a way into your grief, but it's also a way into your ongoing attachment with
Yeah.
dad. Part of the pain of grief is the pain of like not completing the loop of the attachment. We all like are
Mm,
like when we're being caretaken by our parents, we build, okay, dad's safe. He's in the world somewhere and I can go out in the world and be fine. When dad dies, our schema doesn't die and it still tries to run. Dad's somewhere, he's somewhere in the world, but the pain is like, no, he's not. And so in a way, like attaching to something that like can make you feel close to him or a pet or an animal or even your sport in a different
mhm.
way can help us like soothe ourselves and then again be friends with our grief. So as you were naming that, I was like, I've never been a runner. My dad was a huge runner. But now I have friends who hold me accountable to the tough thing of running. And so, but whenever I run, I think of my dad, and, like, that's such a great way to, like, connect with him
Mhm.
and also connect to my body in a different way and, again, build
Yeah.
trust. Mhm.
Yep. And get to know yourself in another way. I love that. I
Mhm.
really love that. I also love the reclaiming our sport. I mean, think about that it coming back to sport in a way that is about us. Like, what is it that I
Yeah.
loved about sport? The
Mhm.
mastery, the feeling of flying through the
Yeah.
air, feel all the things that made me love gymnastics, and to a
Mhm.
degree diving as well. But yeah, thank you for that as well. Really quickly, because we're
Mhm.
getting down to the last couple minutes, but on the other side, for those who are witnesses or bearing witness to those who are going through their grief process, and I know a lot of people say, I don't know what to say. Can you
Mhm.
give us a few things that people can say that would be a good start?
Yeah, yeah. I love I love a thank you for telling me that. I'm really
Mm,
glad you shared that with me. I love getting to know about your person or pet. I also think a great way to connect is like asking questions. So like being interested.
mhm,
I always kind of like use the story of like I was at adult grief retreat and one of my good friends, Sam, we were just chatting at breakfast and he's like, "Oh, just like tell me about your dad." And we chatted a good 15 minutes about our dads and I just thanked him after. I was like, that was really nice. Like, thank you for asking. So I would just say like ask a question and
I
be
love that.
interested.
That's amazing. It doesn't have to be long. It just needs to be
Mhm.
present and be
Yeah.
curious and interested. That show of love and care.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Shelby. Everybody, I have to tell you. So, Shelby this fall has all her groups: the Dead Dad Club, BIPOC Adult Grief Group. We have the Pet Loss Support Group. Are you going to be doing any more of the getting married and grieving groups as well?
Yes, that's ongoing. I'm also doing a dating and grieving group, so for folks who are navigating dating and grieving. And then this Sunday, I'm doing a Father's Day grief workshop that will hopefully connect you to dad in some memory minding.
Yeah. So with that, everyone, if you would like to connect with Shelby, there's a couple ways. You can find Shelby at steadynyc.com. And if you look under the therapist, you'll see her fabulous picture pop up. Also, you can find her on LinkedIn. Shelby runs really, and on Instagram as well. I've
Yes.
seen you on Instagram as well. So do check Shelby's stuff out. Shelby is absolutely amazing. She is my go-to grief, all things grief, with love and compassion. Um, okay, we are at the end, everyone. If you need to reach me, don't be shy. You can find me at lcollinslcsw.com. Thank you all again and again for taking time out of your day to have lunch with us. We appreciate you. Shelby, thank you so much
Thank
again
you.
and again and again. In a couple weeks, we will be with my friend Cynthia Wong. She's another fabulous human being. I'm just so lucky to be surrounded by so many brilliant minds. I cannot wait for y'all to meet her. Thank you again, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Thanks.